All right, guys, welcome to the PTA Inspire series. This is episode 6. I have my boy Dylan on here. He is one of my students who is in my coaching program. If you guys are interested in that, just let me know. But I want to share his story because I feel like it's one that a lot of you guys relate to, especially those of you who might not have passed the exam the first time, are feeling a little bit hopeless, lost, and kind of not sure where to go. So Dylan is a great resource for you guys to reach out to if you ever need anything. I will have him say his way he can get in contact with, which is basically Instagram is the best way to get in contact with this man. And so yeah, we're going to share a little bit about his story. This is a series that I made to make people feel more confident going into their next attempt on the exam, or if this is the first attempt on the exam for them. So Dylan, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for coming on here. I really appreciate it.
No, of course.
Yeah. So first question is the question I ask everybody when I first meet them. Why did you decide on physical therapy, and why specifically did you choose to become a PTA?
So I fell into it kind of randomly. It's not exactly what I wanted to do. And I mean, now it's the right choice, but at the time I kind of wanted to go into an exercise science major kind of after high school. And eventually kind of wanted to become like a PE teacher. And then I realized I probably wouldn't be able to change a lot of people's lives, especially kids, and like in Massachusetts and stuff too. It's like some of the kids could be extremely difficult. And I don't know. I eventually started watching a bunch of day in the life videos on YouTube. And I found day in the life of a PTA. And unfortunately, the kid who made the video isn't actually a PTA anymore, which I thought was kind of funny. But I found his video and it kind of inspired me. So I started looking into programs, and I found one that was near me. So I signed up for it, and I had to take like an entrance exam and stuff. And so that's pretty much how I got into it. And I've always been interested in the body too. And I played sports. I was an athlete. So kind of just fell into it, but it was a good fit. So I'm happy with my choice.
That kind of makes me sad that guy isn't a PTA anymore.
Yeah, I know. I had found him maybe like a couple months ago, and he was like, "Oh, like why I gave up PTA." I didn't watch the video, but I just thought it was funny because like he initially inspired me to like look into it and search into it. So
was it? I'll ask you about who I think it is, because I think I know who it is. That makes me sad. But you're here. You passed your exam.
I did.
And you're ready to work, not in pediatrics.
Not in pediatrics. Surprisingly, though, I do awesome with like the kids, but I don't know.
I feel the same way, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel similarly. Like, oh, the kid was fun, but after like one peds patient, I'm exhausted.
Unfortunately, a lot of them can be a little exhausting, but it's fun. It's fun in the moment, and not something I want to do for 8 hours. But
and I think it's good. Get a variety. That's why a lot of people like outpatient. It's a nice variety, kind of, Yeah. So moving on to your journey, because I know it was an interesting one, especially hearing a little bit about what we were talking about before we got on this interview. I want to hear like, what was your biggest struggle or like obstacle you had to get over when you were studying for the NPTE?
Right. So my first time, I took it in April, and I literally graduated like 2 weeks prior to taking the exam. So time was really like my biggest like limiting factor, which means like I skipped out on a bunch of content areas, and like I only focused on like the big three, like musculo, cardio, neuro. So time was the biggest factor the first time around. I didn't have enough of it, and direction too. Like I didn't also know like what to do or where to begin. And I mean, as far as like the other people who were studying and took it in April and graduated same time as me, like they were probably studying the entire time we were in like that last quarter. And like I didn't study, I just didn't know where to start. So I think that, working with you, like you gave me a good place to start. So
Thanks. And I feel like that's the hardest part, is getting started for a lot of people. Like, what's going on? There's this gigantic 800 and some page book that is in the background of this video. And they're like, what is going on with this? Like, where do I start? Like, do I take a practice test? And I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. And once you get your starting point, it's a lot easier. It's like when you start a workout plan, day one is the hardest.
Right. No, I agree with that. And the book is really no help, to be honest. Like 800 pages of material, and some people are like, oh, just read the book. And, someone like me, and like we've discussed it on many occasions, like I could read a paragraph, I could read a sentence, and then I go to the next and I have no idea what I read. So it's like, it wasn't sticking. And then when I go to take notes, I end up taking the entire page worth of notes. So it wasn't working. It wasn't time efficient, but we had chatted about a more efficient way to go about it. So that really helped.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. And so there are a bunch of videos of this on YouTube. If you find that the videos make it easier to follow along with the book, go for it, guys. Go for it. Just try to make the information as digestible as possible. And it sounds like that's something similar to what Dylan was doing. So if you feel like you struggle with that, like I'm reading the same thing like 40 times and it just seems like it's words. And then, yeah, reading the book's not for everybody, but some people it does work for. But I'm glad you figured out a way that worked best for you. And realize that
absolutely.
when you are studying something and you realize whatever you're doing isn't working, change it up. Like, don't try to force it to work. Find a study strategy that works for you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to interject that in there for people who feel like they feel the same way, because there's light at the end of that tunnel, guys. There's a way to overcome it. So I'm really glad that we met. First of all, Dylan's a super cool guy. I've really enjoyed working with him. He's great. And he's from Rhode Island and not California, which I kept missing.
Not California. Yeah,
which I kept mixing up with all the time. So, but
yeah, same time zone. No, it was nice meeting you too. And I think that, actually talking to you, on the phone and stuff, and when you do like that discovery session, I think that's super helpful to kind of get a feel of who you are and see if you're a good fit, which obviously you are. So.
Well, thank you. And he's referring to our strategy call, that if you have any questions about our program, just hit me up. I got you. I'll make sure that you're well taken care of and that we get you on the right track towards success. So what exactly led you to seek help from me, specifically PTA elevation?
Might have to throw some shade. All right. Well, so obviously I was preparing for the exam the first time. I guess I won't say any names. But yes, you do know who. So I had signed up with these other people who offer a very similar, program, and unfortunately, it didn't work for me. If you want the details, you guys can ask me on IG. But anyway, so it didn't work out for me too well. And again, I don't blame them. It was definitely a time thing, time management, and even when I was taking the exam, it was a time management thing. But yeah, so I had listened to a couple of your podcasts previously to my first exam, and something kind of stuck with me. It was like one of the cardio videos. It was actually on CHF. That's what it was. And it stuck with me. I didn't take any notes. I just listened. And it stuck with me. And I got one of the questions right on the exam because of it. And when I started studying again, I had looked into like your podcast. And then I heard you mention something about how you offer like the program. And that was kind of my I don't know. I started talking through it with my girlfriend. I was like, hey, maybe this is a good idea. And she said, yeah, if you think it's going to help, go for it. Right. And I mean, yeah, it's definitely an investment. And I think that's a very important one, because I didn't just spend all this money on school, I didn't spend all this money on school to, not pass the test. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Dylan just told me how much he paid for school, and I almost died.
Yeah.
My program is on the more expensive side in comparison to other programs, but it is a lot cheaper than failing the exam.
I agree.
And so, yeah, and I seems like just the videos were the thing that helped you the most when it came to talking. And how was it having the community as well?
I got to be honest, for me, I'm indifferent to the groups. Even with my partner, I feel like I kind of failed her in a sense. I don't do well working with groups. I'm kind of like a solo person. So for someone like me, it was cool to have a community to back me. And like, if I did have questions, I can go to my partner, I can go to the group. I didn't utilize it as much as I probably should have. But yeah, no, I think the community is a cool thing to have. But for me, I'm just kind of, I have a really hard time. And like, you've probably noticed it when you reach out to me, like I don't reply. I have a really, really hard time about like actually getting back to people. Like I have 100 like unread texts. I have like 3,000 emails just sitting there. So like I have a really hard time getting back, because I'll see it come across my watch or whatever, and then I just never reply. So unfortunately, yeah, I didn't use the community too much, but it was cool to always know that I had someone like in the back,
I think it also helps having multiple people watching you.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. And you always reached out to me if you needed it. You came up with a lot of good suggestions for everything for the program. So I really appreciate that.
Cool. Yeah. No, I'm glad I was helpful. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what I love about it, is it grows every day, and it is
Right.
student driven. And I just make what do the people want, and I give it to them, and it
Yeah,
works.
no, and I mean, I feel like that's where a lot of businesses go wrong. I mean, like you can even look at like Instagram, for instance, right? Like they're always changing things that people don't necessarily want, and that's you get a lot of backlash. So kind of being able to please the crowd and the majority is always important. So I think that you do a really good job with that.
Oh, thank you. I mean, at the end of the day, I just want to see as many people pass this exam as possible, because this
Yeah,
exam
no,
is
of course.
terrible, and there's not a lot out there to support PTAs, and I want everyone to feel as supported as possible, no matter if you're paying me or not. I really just want people to pass this stupid exam. Oh, but yeah, so talk about the day when you opened up the FSBPT website and you saw that pass circle.
All right, so I'm gonna take it back for a minute. So the first time, I think that's important to kind of show the journey, and that's one of these things that I've kind of taken over like the course of the last 3 months, like pre-preparing and studying, was the journey is like super important, and I didn't appreciate it in the moment, but like having to like be like, oh, now I got to restudy for 3 more months. It's such a long time, and like you start feeling really down, but like it's the journey, like you're meant to go on it, and you weren't ready, so it's a blessing in a sense, and it's definitely made me a better PTA. It's definitely made me, even just in general, like a better person. So I think the journey was super important, and yeah. So the first time I opened it up, it was kind of crushing. I can't lie, because I had a job lined up. They hired me as a graduate PTA. I already had like a full caseload, so like I opened it up, I failed, and like then I had to call the owner, and unfortunately, like we had to like cancel my days, but they were super cool about it. Like they let me stay as an aide. They gave me 40 hours, even though they didn't need me for 40 hours. So like, they really gave me like a helping hand when I needed it. But yeah, there was a lot of pressure on me, whether it was financially, or just in general, there was a lot of pressure. But the day the day I opened it up and saw that I passed, I just want to say too, like I felt at peace with the test after I took it for the second time. The first time I was extremely anxious. I was checking the site pretty much every day, like literally the day after the test, I was checking the site, even though I knew that the results wouldn't have been up. But like this time I really felt at peace with it. Like, it is what it is. I gave it my best. I studied. I left no stone unturned, and I did what I could. So yeah, no, I opened it up and it was random. I thought it was going to come out, I think it was on the Wednesday, but it was Tuesday, and it was like 5 or something like that. And I had texted you and I was like, hey, like, do you know if results are going to roll out? And you're like, oh, some people got them. And I was like, damn, like I haven't got mine. And I opened it up and I just felt like 1,000 pounds lifted off my chest. And yeah, that was because like I had a lot riding on it. I had my job riding on it. I had a lot of finances riding on it, like just getting through, So I think that was like, it was a great feeling. It was Tuesday, so I went out for margaritas and tacos. That's how I celebrated. But yeah, so no, it was a really, really great feeling. Yeah, and I got to call all the people that have been supporting me this entire time. Like whether it was financially or just in general, like moral support, whatever it is. So I called all those people, and they were super proud, and I was so happy to like share the news. So yeah.
I was pretty hyped when you passed too, because it was like I was like, yeah, some people have been getting it, and then I was like sitting there by my phone, like, and then you're like, I passed. I was like, yes. And do you want to? I want because I'm so proud of you of how well you did. Do you want to tell them how much your score improved from your previous attempt?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, let's take it back to the Pete's. So I took 2 Pete's while I was in school. The first one was 575 on the first one. The second one was 525. So it somehow decreased after I studied. Which they said like the first test was like the more like close thing to the Pete or to the actual I forgot the name of the exam. What is it called? The NP. All right, yeah, whatever it was, or just drew a blank. But anyway, so I took it the first time, which I failed. I had a 585, which I think is about like 4 to 5 questions off from passing, give or take, whatever. But anyway, so then after I passed, I got my score. It was 681, so almost 100 points increase, which is kind of crazy. So I really didn't think I was going to do that well. I knew I had a really good feeling I was going to pass, and I was thinking like 615, 630, but no, 680. So no, super proud of that.
Yeah. So you didn't even have any, like, it was a pass. Like it was a solid pass. It wasn't like you squeaked by or anything, which it doesn't matter if you got a 602, you passed the exam.
No, it doesn't matter.
You are a PTA. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Right.
The only times we showcase our scores when we want to motivate others to make sure that they're getting to where they need to go. No, I'm so proud of you. You crushed it.
Thank you.
You absolutely
Thank
crushed
you.
it. And like a lot of my other students were like, I got like a 700 plus on their second
Right.
attempt. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, y'all are crushing it. So I'm so proud of all of you guys. You guys really like put in the effort. And that's why I tell people, like, if you put in the effort for this thing, like you are going to absolutely crush it. Like that is my biggest advice, is like, you need to invest in your own studying and make sure to do what needs to be done. If you need to like make some sacrifices, got to make the sacrifices. It's a sprint to the finish. You can do it. And, yeah. So what's one piece of advice you would offer any student who's taking the exam either on October or later? Oh, two?
Yeah, no, I got two.
Oh, you can have two.
I got
you
two.
can have two.
I got two.
No
I got
more
two.
than
So,
two. No, I'm just kidding.
I know, right? Gonna stop. So like the first one is, and I know you definitely advocate for this, but use your breaks, right? I finished the first test with about like an hour and 20 minutes left. And the first time going into it, I had the scheduled break. I took about 5 minutes. I didn't bring any snacks. I didn't bring any water. I mean, they had a water jug, but I didn't really do anything. So I didn't use the time to my advantage. I went out into the hallway. I took a deep breath, and that was pretty much it. And I went back in, and I didn't feel good. And, we went over my first exam, and like the fourth section is where I fell apart. The third, I mean, like you saw the score decreasing kind of as like the sections have went on, but the fourth I bombed. And like, that's when I probably really needed to just take a deep breath and kind of just keep pushing forward. But the second time going into it, I knew I was going to use my breaks a lot better. So the first scheduled break, I took the full 15 minutes. I still had plenty of time. I was running way ahead. So took the full 15 minutes. I brought snacks with me. I remember one of the girls out in the hallway, she's like, "Oh, did you bring enough snacks?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I did actually," because, and she was like being sarcastic, but I was like, whatever. Like, yeah, no, I did bring a lot of snacks because last time I was hungry. And like, when I start getting hungry, like that's all I can focus on. So I brought snacks. I ate, I had some water, took a couple deep breaths. And, oh, this is the other thing too. So like, when I played football, like the coach is always big on saying like, oh, like, when you go, like when you're at halftime, he always said like, oh, like it's a new game going into the second half. And like, I kind of went and I approached it with that mentality that, you're like you can still pass, even if you didn't do too great on the first two sections, like you can still pass, if you do well on the third and fourth. So, you have to you have to clear your head. It's a clean slate. You're going into the test fresh, and really using those like 15 minutes as like a refresher. I think is super, super important. So I actually took a second break, which was not scheduled, but during the third and fourth section, I got up, I grabbed a glass of water, and took some deep breaths in the hallway, cleared my head and stuff. And then, cause like I knew that's where I messed up badly, like on the first try. So I went into that one a lot better. Just bear with me for a second. I had taken some notes so I could have all my points. So just give me one sec. I don't know, man. Might have lost it. Oh, okay. Yeah, I got it. Here we go. All right. So study everything, right? I think that's super important. My first attempt going into it, like I had mentioned earlier, I kind of just studied the big three, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do fine enough in these sections that like the rest is whatever, no, study every single content area, no matter how small, try to really just get everything in, because that can really be like the difference between passing by 1 point or failing by 1 point. So I think that's super important too. Just kind of study everything. It doesn't matter if it's 5 questions or 10 questions, just study it, because that could really put you on the passing side. So those are my 2 pieces of advice.
Well, Dylan, thank you so much for taking the
course.
time out of your day to help inspire some other PTA students. And I mean, I'm always inspired by you. Like, I'm just listening. I'm just like, this man is crushing it. Look at him go. Like, he's feeling it.
Thank you.
So, I really appreciate you spending your time on here today. And so that concludes our interview. If anybody has any questions for Dylan, where can they reach you?
You can reach me at dylan.estrella. I'll spell it out. So Dylan and then .estrella. Instagram is probably the best way. I don't really see anything else. So Dylan.estrella. And I mean, you tagged me earlier, so they can find it. Yeah, they'll find it.
Yeah, I'll put your tag in the show notes down below.
Cool. All right,
everybody, take care and have a great rest of your day.